Good afternoon, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all to Global Udan webinar series, the 23rd webinar on the topic DIY, Do It Yourselves, Incorporation of Company in USA. Webinar being organized by the Development of International Trade Services and WTO Directorate of ICAI. Global Udan, a knowledge series started to encourage our professionals members to grab the global opportunities. On behalf of the organizers, I extend a very warm welcome to all the participants who have joined us today for this webinar. The topic we are going to discuss, incorporation of company in the USA. It is of immense importance for entrepreneurs, professionals, and business looking to expand their horizons. Incorporation is not just a legal formality. It is a strategic step that gives a business identity, credibility, and growth potential on a global scale. As professionals, we incorporate companies in India. As a part of that, we know that we have to go through the lot of documentation part. We need to ensure that the proper process is complete without any issues so that in future there is no problem. In the same way, for US also, we need to follow the step-by-step process to incorporate the company. And to understand that, we have our esteemed speaker, CA Ashish Singhal. It's my privilege to welcome our esteemed speaker, CA Ashish Singhal. We are truly honored to have with us CA Ashish Singhal, who over the past decade has advised 100 plus startups, SMEs, and global enterprises on US company incorporation, cross-border structuring, fundraising readiness, gap compliant financial reporting, and US federal and state tax compliance. This with this extreme and with the US incorporation idea, we are going to get a lot of points from him. Be ready with the questions also. He is the founder and CEO of Unparalleled Strategic Advisors LLC, a boutique consulting firm based in New York and Gurgaon, and also leads the Financial Soul LLC, a Delaware-based consulting company. Mr. C.A. Ashish is also a QuickBooks Online Pro advisor and certified bookkeeper, combining his Big Four experience with hands-on CFO level advisory for modern, fast-growing businesses. His firm specializes in bringing Fortune 500 level expertise to startups, simplifying incorporation, ensuring compliance, and acting as strategic partners across finance, tax, and governance. We are fortunate to have such a distinguished professional with expertise in US incorporation, US company incorporation, to explain us the steps involved, the procedures, the documentation, and as we need to follow the federal and state laws, he is the experienced person who is going to explain us all the steps and understand. If you request all the participants to understand and raise the questions so that he can answer in the Q&A session. Without taking much of time, I now request CA Ashish Singhal to take over and share the knowledge to all of us. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Sudha ma'am. It's a big opportunity for me also to contribute to our profession and share my expertise. I'll be happy to share all the knowledge that I have gathered over the year and help participants and business founders and anyone who is looking to incorporate a company in the US. And with this, I think the larger gist of today's webinar is that at the end outcome should be that as a founder, as a participant, we should know that how do we incorporate the company in the US? Why do we incorporate the company in the US? What's the need? Why do we need to scale into the global operations? And we will answer a lot of questions around who can incorporate, which kind of legal structure we can opt for the company, and we'll kick off things in a more granular detail as we progress in the webinar. So with this, I would like to take things forward, keep things simple from a perspective of I'm not going to keep it very consultant heavy styled webinar. We will use the simple terminologies and understand it in a very layman way on how do we incorporate a company and how do we scale our global operations. Considering the tension between US and India these days, I have even kept one slide to understand what are the other global operations or global countries where business can be expanded outside of US if it is not US. So we will briefly touch upon those areas as well. With that, I'll quickly share my slide and get things going from here. Sudha ma'am, is my slides available?
Yes, sir.
Visible to you?
Yeah, it is visible, sir.
All right. So we will quickly roll into it. And Sudha ma'am, thank you for the brief introduction as well. I'll not go into that in much detail. So, when we start and when we think about global expansion, my first question that I would like to bring attention to is why do we want to incorporate in US? Is in expansion in India not enough? So basically, to answer that question in general, is there are firms, startups who are looking to go global and sell their products and services outside of India as well. And there is no issue, no problem going, global and, expand the horizons of your business. That's how we scale. So why do we incorporate in India is the fundamental question, which comes to a lot of founders' mind in India. Companies wants to understand why we want to go global, and the answer, to the best of my understanding, lies is that while we have all the facility and funding and all the operational efficiencies in India, but when we want to access a global capital, or when we see any prospective investor who wants to invest in our company, that's when they expect us to set up the branch of our business or a company in US as well. So expanding the horizons to US, this gives us gives us as a business access to global capital. It increases our market entry credibility, from a perspective that when you have operations in multiple country and other domains and other regions, definitely your product earns more credibility and trust. When you serve the global audience, then definitely your business earns a global client trust, which definitely brings efficiencies to the overall operations. We do see that there are some additional strategic benefits, that are there from a perspective of expanding the reach of business to global markets. When we work with global, other countries, we do get the tax treaty benefits, which is there for businesses between India and US as well. We are able to offset our, taxes paid in US while as the Indian business owners, and we are able to avoid the taxation under DTAA by taking the foreign tax credits, for the taxes paid in the US, and only pay taxes in India on the income once and not double tax. And there is no double taxation there. With global operations, we definitely, get into the ease of doing business. US being one of the largest capitalist and operational efficiency tech driven economy, it provides us a lot of ease of doing business. In India, we do take good 10 to 12 days or 2 weeks to incorporate a company. But technically, if you need a company in US, it can be done in 24 hours as well. It's just that you will end up paying a little bit more expedition fees, or it's that easy to incorporate a business. You can overnight incorporate a company and get running from the next day. Uh, when you obviously incorporate with any country outside of India, especially US, you get the exposure and benefit of working with international banks and fintech. As you most of you must be aware that JP Morgan Chase, Bank of America, they have the world's best security and technology and fintech solution available for the startups, and that's the reason most of the startups grow in Silicon Valley, California, and New York provides a big platform to the investment banking companies. And from what I have seen is these two locations, companies in these two regions have been ruling the financial and IT world, from last many decades. So definitely, investors wants to step into it and get going with the DIY incorporation of company in the US. From the audience perspective, one thing when we are thinking about going global is a food for thought, that why do we want to incorporate? The answer to this question should be very much clear when we are aiming to set up a company, because that will define, having that clear answer to that will define on what kind of business setup you want to incorporate and what strategy you want to implement, and this will help you explore where are your prospective investors. So basically, having answer to these thoughts in your mind before you go into the incorporation of the company will help you, know where to incorporate, what setup to incorporate, and how to move things forward. So once we have a clear idea of what company we want to incorporate, and the reason is clear on why are we incorporating a company, the next question comes, with respect to choosing the right entity type. The way we have like many entity structures or legal entity structures in India, we can do business in India as a sole proprietor, partnership, LLP, LLC. We can incorporate a public limited company, private limited company, and there is a host of other entity structures as well if we want to do a non-profit business or a small company and things like that. The same way, we have the similar setups available in the US as well. You can do business as a sole proprietor, in a partnership, LLP, LLC, C corporation, which is more like a private or a public limited company in US. And they have like a couple of unique, entity setup structures as well. One of them is S corporation, which is more act like a incorporated. I mean, that's more like a partnership incorporated as a company. And similar to that, there is a company called, a legal setup called B Corporation. B Corporation is a setup where you can do things sustain. If you are a sustainable company, you're contributing to the environment, you can register yourself as a B Corporation and avail a lot more benefits from the government there. In this particular setup, they provide you more ease of doing business. However, when we think about setting up a company from India, we do not have like much options available. But the two most favorable options is, as an Indian business or an Indian consultant, Indian expert, Indian IT professional who wants to expand and scale in the US, they have two possible choices. They can create a LLC while being a non-resident Indian owner of a US company, or they can create a C corporation, which is more, governed and better driven structure, basically. While LLC is best for like freelancers, consultants, and service provider, C corporation can be set up if you are looking to like get into the products business, any kind of a SaaS business, software as a service, or a technology company, because under C corporation you have better visibility of the company and you'll be able to raise funds very easily as a C corporation business setup as opposed to a LLC setup. While both of these structure have its own nuances of doing business, which obviously we have it in India as well. In the US, if you set up a LLC, you have a pass-through taxation. Technically, you pay zero taxation in the US, and all the taxation on your earnings in US get passed to the non-residents India tax return, and you will end up paying taxes in India. So if you set up a LLC, technically you pay zero taxes on your business LLC to the US government. Entire income comes and sits in your individual tax return here in India, and Indian you pay the tax to India government, and that's how the beautifully the DTAA is structured, that entities are able to pass through taxation much seamlessly. When you are working as a LLC, you have less compliances compared to a C corporation. This setup allows non-residents to be the part of or the business owners of a LLC in US. Minimal administrative burden. However, if you're creating a LLC, you're less likely that VCs and investors will take interest in your business. And the sole reason is that entire profits gets taxable in the hands of the owner of the business and not in the US itself. So it's difficult for an investor to think about how do they exit from the company if they have done 2x, 10x of their investments in a LLC? It's difficult from a taxation perspective. However, when it comes to C corporation, again, it's a gold standard for VC funding. You can issue ESOPs. You can't issue a ESOP in LLC. Entity has its own taxation the way we have it in India. It's a more governed and a better planned structure to do large businesses. And so basically, both entity structure has its own nuances depending on what is the nature of business, from where you're gonna serve most customers, and whether you have the need of investing, investors investing in your business from angels or VCs, venture capitalists. Depending on all these questions in your mind, you can decide on which structure will suit the best needs for your business. We already have largely touched upon what how it compares a LLC with a C corporation. Here, very quickly, taxation structure in the hands of LLC is a pass through. However, in case of a C corporation, it's a flat 21% taxation. One thing to note here is 21% taxation is a federal taxation. There is an additional state tax in US, which gets imposed on the income earned from the state. So very quickly, just to like give you a gist, if you earn $100,000 as a New York-based company, you're going to pay $21,000 to the federal state government, which is more like the way we pay income tax to the central government. You pay a federal tax to their central government there. In the US, the authority is called IRS, Internal Revenue Services. However, whatever state you are operating in or serving your customers, you have to pay some income tax in those states as well. New York has about 9.5% income tax additional to be paid, in addition to the federal taxation. However, there are some threshold and limits as well, which allows small business to not incur any state level taxation in the US. But as soon you scale, you have to pay state taxation. If you operate in 10 different states in US, you will be paying 21% tax as a federal tax to the central government there, and you will be paying some state tax in all these states as well to the respective government. So effective tax might go really up, but that's where I mentioned already that C corporation is a little complex structure. It needs to be structured really well to understand the how it will be tax efficient to your Indian entity and to your global dream of working in US or scaling in US. Investor appeal, obviously better in C corporations. Setup complexity, LLC is pretty much simple. C corporation is also simple. But one good thing about setting up a company in US is whether you are setting up a LLC or you are setting up a C corporation, you can set it up in less than 24 hours as well. And that's what the ease of business they provide. If you happen to like get up in the morning and some investor agrees to invest in you, it really can happen in 24 hours itself. Other than that, annual compliances are less in LLC. In US, C corporation, we have a more corporate tax return structure, board resolution. It exactly operates like the way we operate a private limited company here. Rest is all, there are specific nuances as well, but for this session, this is this understanding is enough for us to decide whether we want to set up a company or not, or how we want to go about it. Now, as I mentioned, the taxation is state based. One eminent question that comes to the mind of anyone who is, scaling from India to the US is where to set up in the US. Unlike India, you have to declare and adhere to any particular state to incorporate a company. In USA, each state has its own set of rule. Not all states allows non-resident to set up a company. But what I have seen, from my experience, is that Delaware is a state in US which is most favorable to Indian nationals to set up a company. It's a gold standard where the ease of business is so high that you can incorporate a company in 24 hours. So Delaware is a go-to state, usually, which is opted by Indian non-resident to set up their operations in the US. However, there are other states as well, New York, California, Nevada, and a couple of others, which allows for non-resident Indians to set up a company, but they will be more complicated and there might be more documentary requirements there. So, a easy go-to solution is Delaware here, which can be set up like in less than 24 hours itself. Uh, Moving on from here, now actually coming to the main gist of this topic on how do we do it yourself or set up our company on its own, what all it takes to create a company in the US, and how as a business owner you can do this. Definitely there are both options. You can do it yourself or you can engage a professional who can do it for you. However, as a DIY model will be more economical, in the initial setup, from an initial setup perspective, you may decide if you want to do it yourself or want to get it done through a professional. So let's deep dive into it. So technically, as we have discussed already, first decision that you have to make is where you want to incorporate, which means choosing the state of incorporation. Again, to just bring my thoughts back, Delaware is the most favorable and most popular choice, which allows Indians to, set up a company as a non-resident in India. However, there are other states as well, Wyoming, Nevada, New York, California. They also allow us to set up the businesses there, but those processes are more complex. Second thing, as a part of DIY incorporation process, is you need to decide a name that you want to register for your business. Uh, Keep the name simple so that approval is easy. Do your research that the business name that you're thinking is not already registered, the way we do it at MCA in India here as well. It's a pretty much simple, we can just type in and go to the registry of the state, go to the state website and check the if the name is available or not. Depending on if the name is available, the way we do it in MCA India here as well, we pay some very nominal fees to block the name, to hold the name so that no one else can register it while you complete the incorporation process. The same can be done there as well. To the best of my understanding, it varies between states, but fees to register or block the name vary from $5 to around $50. Third thing, as a part of DIY process that you need to do is appoint a registered agent. Now, this term might sound new to you, but because you're a non-resident, you're not in the US. So US laws require you to appoint a registered agent. They are more like a lawyer firm or a person who can represent you in front of the state authorities, or because you are located in India, right, as a non-resident. So you need to appoint an agent so that an agent can receive communication from the state government, on your behalf and get things moving for you. So they receive, tax notices, state notices, and anything and everything that government has to communicate with you, or the state company authority has to communicate with you, right? So this is the most important thing which cannot be skipped. So it is very important to appoint a registered agent. Your registered agent should be a good firm, and the fees to appoint a registered agent vary from depending on your needs and scale of business, how you are expecting to grow. Just keep those thoughts in your mind while selecting the registered agent. Fee vary from as low as 20, 25, $50 to 300, 400, $500 per annum, depending on your needs. So till now, in the three steps, we have only paid $50 for the name reservation and around $300 for the appointing a registered agent. Appointing a registered agent doesn't take much of an effort. Go to any registered agent website, like I have mentioned here, to Harvard Business Services, Northwest Registered Agent. Go to their website, just sign up for their services, do a basic KYC, your details and everything. Explain a little things about your business, and they should be taking you to the payments page. You make the payment, and then they're ready to represent you to the state. Moving from here, so first three steps we have already covered with respect to how do we incorporate our company on our own. Once you have the registered agent appointed, the next step is actually to prepare your application to register a company with a particular state that you want to do business with. Obviously, from a Delaware perspective, you just need to fill in a form which is more like a certificate of incorporation that you fill on your own. And when you file it, the department, after verifying your documents, your KYC that you have provided, your proof of address, and things like that, they will stamp that same certificate that you have filled in and provide you back or send you back. And that certificate, which is stamped and signed by the state authorities, will act as your certificate of incorporation, and your company is incorporated now. But this doesn't mean that the company is ready to do business. However, incorporation is that simple. So we have done only 4 steps. One is, we discussed already that we will decide the state of incorporation. We decide the name of the business. We secure the name by paying a little fees. Then we appoint a registered agent. We then prepare incorporation form. This incorporation form will also have the details of the registered agent, which we have appointed in step 3 here. Once we file in the form, usually if I talk about Delaware, Delaware returns the application in 5 business days as part of their regular usual business, no expedition fees. So they take 5 to 7 business days. If I file it today, which is Wednesday, 24th September, probably I'll hear back from them by next Wednesday, around 30th. And so this technically is their usual business services. However, if we pay some additional fees, it can be done on the same day, which means the 24th September itself, or I can select what kind of expedition I want. If I have an urgent need, I might select a 24-hour service. If I have a flexible need, I need to, incorporating in 2-3 days, okay, I can select a 3 day service. Or I can, if I don't have any urgency, I can leave it as it is, not pay any expedition fees, and my company will be incorporated by them in 7 business days. So that's how quick it is. Once your company is incorporated with the state of Delaware, we will have to create some secretarial documents to make sure we are doing the business in a right way. We will draft a LLC agreement, operating agreement, where we will define who are the members of LLC or who are the members of C corporation, how is their profit distributing, what is the management structure. We will appoint a president for a C corporation or a main partner for a LLC. And the same way we like decide things here when we fill in the SPICE form here in MCA in India, the same way we will set up our legal structure. The only difference here is that we provide all this information as part of in form of incorporation to MCA to review and then approve a company. In US, you do not provide all these information at the time of incorporating a company to the state. Rather, you create these as an internal, LLC agreement or a C corporation setup structure documents, and there you define everything. These documents will get filed at a later stage, when you do your first franchise tax return, but not at the time of incorporation. So after now we are done with 5 steps. The last step technically is just applying a EIN. EIN is more like a PAN in India. It's a tax identification number. It's so when we apply in step 4, our certificate of incorporation. This certificate of incorporation is given by the state, while the tax identification number is given by their federal authority, which is a central authority, and EIN. That's number is called PAN equivalent number in US is EIN, employer identification number. This is issued by IRS. IRS is the federal tax authority there. IRS is Internal Revenue Services. And we just have to fill a form SS4. It's again a single page form that we have to fill in and provide all details. One key thing here is when applying a PAN is for a US resident, this is a facility which is available online and it takes 5 minutes to generate a EIN. You go on the PAN EIN application, you put your social security number. In India, we have Aadhaar as a social security number. In US, they call it SSN, social security number. They go on the EIN website, they put their social security number. If it's a US resident, it automatically pulls every detail from the SSN once you enter the SSN number, and you just then input the details of your business, and they instantly on the same screen give you a EIN. So it's hardly a 5 minute job if you are a resident applying for a EIN. However, in our case, we are discussing from an India perspective. So any Indian resident, they won't have a SSN, right? So we will have to file a form. Which will allow our EIN application without a SSN. We will be declaring ourselves as a non-resident. We will provide them with our Indian Aadhaar card, our address details, Indian residence detail, and things like that. And we have to actually physically mail a letter to IRS to issue us a EIN. So that's the only, place applying a EIN where it takes a little bit of time. However, as your company is already incorporated in the step 4, as part of step 6, we are applying for a tax identification number, which for resident may take around 3 to 4 weeks, depending on how soon you're able to send your application to IRS. Unlike the state, states take the expediency fees and do your work or process your company or process your requirement within 24 hours as well. However, there is no such facility to get things expedited for non-residents with IRS. So we have to go through a regular paper process, and it takes its own sweet time. 3 to 4 weeks is usually what I have experienced it has taken. However, if IRS is not able to verify any of your KYC credentials that you have provided, it might take a little more time as well. But pretty much it's a very simple form, only ask you for a business details, nothing else, and you provide your Aadhaar card and your residence details, and EIN is issued by them. No questions asked is what I have seen in most of my experience so far. So this simple is the DIY process is. So all steps we have covered. We just have to choose the state, which for 99 or 95% Indians is going to be Delaware. We have to think of a good business name, which relates to what exactly we are doing. Then we have to appoint a registered agent. Why we have to appoint a registered agent is because we are non-resident and department needs somebody to represent us. However, just one more point I would like to highlight here is if you are a US resident, you don't need to appoint a registered agent because you are available in the country to face off or to work with the department as needed. This is a sole requirement for a non-residents only. If as a US resident, you want to appoint a registered agent so that a lawyer can represent you professionally in a better way, you can still do that. However, for non-residents, it's a mandatory requirement. You can't do your own representation. Part 4, step 4, we just file the incorporation documents to the state of Delaware website. We pay the fees there, expediency fees, if any. We create our internal documents in step 5. We obtain an EIN from federal government. And now The company is incorporated and you are ready to do business after this step. This is that simple. Now, obviously, once you have all your incorporation documents set up, and to actually do business, you will need to open a bank account as well. That's where you will bring your first initial investment or funding from your own money. And this is again another process where it gets little tricky, in terms of having connections, or like getting a bank account is a little tricky thing. However, I mean, if you're going with the full-fledged banking companies like Chase, Bank of America, Citibank, Deutsche Bank, and things, they might take they because they are full-fledged banking, businesses in the US. Their KYCs are more rigorous, and they ask you for. They takes a little bit of more time. So these are one of the options. However, there are some fintech solutions as well. Most of our client, we do serve around 70 US companies at this moment. And when we set them up initially, we went ahead with banks like Mercury, Brex, Row, Wise. These are very, their banking setup is very startup friendly, non-residents friendly. They're able to open a bank account within a 3 days. And the best part is they have a least they charge you the least amount in terms of bank charges, whether you're sending money from US to India or US to any country for that matter. Most of these banks provide you wire transfers at a very nominal cost compared to the full-fledged banks like Chase, Bank of America, and Dosh and Cities of the world. uh, so that way, I think if you're just starting your business, you can start with the fintech banks, and as soon your business starts to grow, you have better presence in the US. You can open a bank account with more structured bank as well. And obviously, when as a Indian residents or non-residents, we think about scaling to US. So we do think about how big the bank is. Because obviously everyone gets reminded of Silicon Valley Bank's crash, where the funds got bank got shut down in like 3 days, and all the money that bank had, they were not able to pay back to the account holders and things like that. So these fintech banks do provide you insurance up to $5 million in the bank. Uh, but beyond that, you have to go with bigger and better banks for sure. So just keep those things in your mind. Start with the fintech banks, and then you can move to the more structured banks to open it. Once you have a bank account open, as part of a regular compliance framework, there is only one single filing that needs to go to the state of Delaware, which is called as franchise tax. Just for everyone's knowledge and audience knowledge, each state in US wherever you incorporate will have only one filing, which is called as franchise tax filing. In addition to that, you file your annual federal income tax return, and that's it. There is no other tax filings that is required to be done at a company level. However, if you start hiring and you scale up in the US, there might be like payroll related filings, which is common everywhere. But the compliance structure on a recurring compliance from a recurring compliance perspective is very streamlined. Um, for the state of Delaware, minimum is $300 that you have to pay them as an annual tax. And it's again a very one pager single filing. Once all of this is done, you start your business, you hire people, you start working with your customers, you have to maintain your regular set of books of account. The way we do it in India, we have popular like accounting systems like Zoho, Tally, and Odoo, and things like that. In US, one of the popular accounting softwares is QuickBooks, Zero, FreshBooks, SAP of the world, Oracle. These are for bigger enterprises, but usually when anyone is starting business, you start with these, generalized softwares, which basically, is able to fulfill all your daily needs under one roof itself. With this, I think I already have mentioned that banks might take a little bit more time, but overall, this is I mean a 6 7 step incorporation process, of which first 3 steps are typically happening inside your brain. You're thinking where to incorporate, where to start business, the name of the business. You appoint a registered agent in step 3. Step 4, you file the documents in Delaware. You prepare your internal governance documents. You obtain a EIN. Last step, you open a bank account, and your company is ready. Ready to do business and ready to do receive investments on your behalf and ready to scale it further and move things positively ahead. So from a visual perspective, this is very simple. Week 1 is you do all the basic things. Week 2, you file your EIN application, which usually is returned back in 3 to 4 weeks. Week 3 to 4, you open your bank account, and then last step is basically doing your annual filings, which is a one-time annual thing that you have to do. So typically, this step, week 1, can also be done within 24 hours, which means your company will be live on their central company registry in 24 hours. EIN is a tax application. This happens after the incorporation of company. Similarly, once you receive the EIN, or once you file the EIN application, you can start your parallelly bank opening process, and then you have to have your regular internal controls and system to record day-to-day operations and things like that. With this, I think we are almost done with the incorporation process in general. However, I have incorporated some more, essential things that a non-resident Indian owner should keep in mind from a tax perspective, cash flow perspective, compliance perspective, and from a perspective of planning their profitability and other things. As mentioned already, once your EIN will come, you will be required to pay 21% flat tax as a C corporation if you have opted for the C corporation legal structure. However, if you have opted for a LLC as a foreign owner, your income will be subject to Indian taxation under the pass-through taxation mechanism. And in India, typically your income is taxed at 33% tax rate plus surcharge if applicable. State tax considerations are with respect to Delaware's, taxation. We will have to keep in mind that we will be filing state tax return and franchise tax return, and there might be applicability of sales tax as well, the way we have GST in India. However, in US, there are very handful items only which attract sales tax. Other than those handful 6 7 8 10 items, there is no sales tax on anything. So there is a component of indirect taxes very less in US, and that's where you can compensate for a higher tax composition of direct or income tax, you can say, because on the income tax side, you pay 1% to the federal government, and then you pay some between 5 to 10% to each state you are operating in. So that increases your federal tax burden to again 35%. However, there are no such sales tax obligation unless and until you're doing something custom related to tech or software or SaaS services and things like that. So this gets applicable to 100 out of 2 companies. So the application of sales tax is very less in the US. And one thing to note here is that sales tax is also a state-based taxation there. Each state will have its own rule, the way we used to have VAT earlier back in the day. So that way, I can proudly say that India has evolved into a one, nation, one taxation, and we came up with GST. They are still yet to do that. They have each state having a different set of income tax for a state taxation, and the same way they have a different rules different taxation limits, different products being taxed in different states. So that's how it can get complicated, but still it gets applicable to very less number of businesses. So these were some tax essentials, which our non-resident Indian owners needs to keep in mind when they are setting up their business in the US. In addition to that, as I mentioned, that if you are incorporating a LLC, the income of the LLC will be taxed in the hands of its owner, and that's done as a pass-through mechanism, which has come from the DTAA, where the Indian owner takes the benefit under DTAA to pay tax in both nations, and the owner will be taxed only in India and not in the US. However, there are like some areas where there might be a double taxation, which currently happens, but that's not a very bigger area. If you have incorporated C corporation and you're distributing dividends, that's where you pay some double taxation in US. Other than that, it's always you're able to avoid taxation under DTAA for any relation between India and US. So I've even captured an example here. If a C corporation US company earns $100,000 profit, you pay 21,000 as a US tax, at a federal tax rate, which we have discussed here. However, if we are distributing, if the company distributes 50,000 as dividend, there will be a withholding of 25%. So this 12,500 will be paid in the US. However, under DTAA, the Indian resident is able to take a credit of this 12,500 tax, which is paid in the US, and offset it against the Indian income. So encashing FTAs is a little bit complicated and tricky process, but DTAA do provide us a marginal relief there to claim the credit of taxation which is paid in the US on dividends. One second. So that we can continue with the same speed, right? Am I going too fast? Or this is okay?
It's okay, sir. It's very clear also. You're explaining it very well.
All right, ma'am.
We have
Thank you, Sudha,
almost
ma'am.
600 participants. So maybe you can brief in between also, sir.
Sure. Okay. So moving further from here, so far we have covered on, how do we incorporate the company? What are the basic tax essentials for a non-resident owners? How do we use DTAA to, avoid taxation as part of our overall tax optimization strategy? Now, I would like to bring my attention to, some common mistakes that usually Indian founders or Indian businesses made when they are incorporating a company in the US, and how do we avoid them? So, as part of the DIY process, I stressed a lot on the first 2 points, which is thinking about the state of the business. And before that, I did mention, to think about what structure of business you want to opt for and what is the need for you to incorporate uh, in the US. So, having a clarity on why you want to incorporate, the answers could be that you want a VC investor from US or any other US company investing in you, and that's why you need to incorporate. If this is the reason you are incorporating, then definitely your choice of structure cannot be a LLC. You have to incorporate a C corporation only, so that you're setting the entity right, and VC is able to confidently invest in you as a business. So this is a common mistake. Initially, it doesn't cost this the there is no much difference in the setup cost of a LLC versus a C corporation, but a lot of founders make this mistake that they set their business up as a C corporation, LLC, and then they later have to convert their business to a C corporation when there is a further expansion in the US. So, giving a right thought at the right entity structure will make your life easy and simpler. From my experience, what I have seen is whenever there is a case of converting a LLC from, converting a LLC to a C corporation, that's a much complicated process. And at that time, you incur much more professional fees in getting that thing done. So it's better to think ahead, better to think in advance on why you are incorporating, and opting for the right structure will reduce your hassle, in the forward journey. Second mistake that usually, founders opt is, initially, you get flustered with which bank to open, and, how do we open a bank account? Should we go for a traditional, more comprehensive bank solution, or should we go for a fintech bank? And definitely, when we think about a banking piece where we are going to keep the money of our business, we do get emotional and think about the worst case scenario as well, if bank for some reason crashes and things like that. So depending on how soon you want to start your business, you have to like come up with a strategy as to, should you from the starting of the business itself go for a full-fledged banking solution, or should we start with the fintech solution? For sake of completing the process, I do feel and suggest to, to everyone, that if you're incorporating, you have the immediate needs, or even if you don't have the immediate needs, set up the bank account with one of the fintech banks. Keep less money there, depending on how your need grows as part of daily business or the part of scale of the US entity. Opt for a right business structure by assessing what are your exact banking needs. Are you a company who do ACH on a day-to-day basis, or a wires on a day-to-day basis, or you're a company which requires on a day-to-day basis make more multi-currency payments and things like that, or you're a tech company with a lot of freelancers working in the US, so you might want to give them virtual cards and things like that for their spends, business related spend, their travel related spend, and things like that. So, all of this counts in assessing the decision of which bank to go with and what kind of timelines it will have. A comprehensive commercial bank will have a big timeline. It might take like 2 to 3 months as well to open a bank. However, with fintechs, it can happen in 3 days as well. So do assess it properly. The third thing, which I think is true for even Indian businesses, or for that matter, businesses in any other country as well, I do feel we should be mindful as a owner to know what, after incorporating a company, I need to do as part of keeping the status of the company right, or as part of keeping the compliance structure of the company healthy. And this basically helps you make sure that your operations are running smoothly. If you miss on a timelines, what I have seen in the US from my experiences, if you ignore timelines, sometimes they just come up and give you a suspension order without even giving you an opportunity of being heard. And if this happens because of a ignorance, that you did not pay attention to the compliance timeline, or you did not file it on time, imagine the stress if you have received money from the investors. So it's always suggested, we always tell our clients, we always tell everyone that once you set up a company, do set it up a compliance calendar, or add the compliance dates on your business calendar, so that you can get the automated reminders and you do the filings on time. For most of most of what I have told so far, Delaware is a gold standard for Indian people who want to set up a business in the US or scale in the US. So for Delaware, 1st March is the date of franchise tax. Minimum taxation at the moment is $300. They don't ask you for any other filing or any other money as part of taxation. That's the minimum you have to pay. You have to pay it before 1st March, file the return, and you're done for the next entire year. From a federal tax return perspective, you usually get 3.5 months to file your tax return. US, as you know, economy, they function on a calendar year basis for the business as well. Unlike we have April to March as a financial year here. So they operate on a calendar year model, which is January to December, and they give you 3.5 months to file your income tax return. So technically, your income tax return is due by 15th of April. There are further like extensions and things like that as well, but these are the only two filings that happen for a business, whether it's a LLC or a C corporation. So we should be mindful that we are doing it on time and we're not losing money in interest, in penalties, and definitely we don't want to get a suspension order from state or the federal government. So these are some common things we should be mindful about. Uh, these were the common mistakes. Some, other two, three critical items is which we have to build a right muscle to build a business, to do a business in the right way in the US. And one first thing that comes to my mind is don't use your personal bank account for making payments related to the business. This will cost you big at the time you're filing the returns. This will get disallowed. You will not get any benefit of it, and this definitely will you will not be able to show or assess the right position of your business. So always be mindful that you don't use your personal account. uh, Usually, I have seen again, startups are very inclined to set up their business in the US. They do that and then they forget about it, which means they don't maintain the right set of bookkeeping, they don't maintain the records, they don't maintain and update their secretarials, which may again cause suspensions to your business. So always be mindful about that. Again, coming to this last point, I think from a perspective of critical mistakes, in the third step of DIY incorporation, I mentioned that we have to, as a non-resident, appoint a registered agent, and the registered agent's job is to represent our company in front of the Delaware State Department or any state commercial department for that matter to represent us because we are non-resident, we are based in India, so we need somebody to represent us in front of the department, and that's what the job of registered agent is. Usually what Indian founders or anyone would do, who is setting up business, obviously we want to be mindful of cost, but sometimes while we are mindful of cost, we do select the cheap alternatives, or the cheapest registered agents. But the choice should be to know what services they are offering. There is no point of having a cheap registered agent if he's not able to give you a right representation, right? We don't want a company suspension notice from Delaware or federal government, right? So we need to be mindful of what all they need to do. We need to see what their reach is as a registered agent. It's more like appointing a lawyer to represent yourself. So if we are in India and if we are in trouble, right, do we opt for a cheap one who does not guarantee a result, or we are mindful of a good quality lawyer who can give us a fair representation while we seek a fair price as well? So it's the same mathematics there as well. We have to be thinking wisely while we are choosing a registered agent. When you will search about it on internet, you might find registered agent who are ready to do your annual representation for as low as $10 as well, 800 rupees. Can you imagine a lawyer working for a $10 for a year to make any representation? I can guarantee you will end up in trouble. So look for a dependable registered agent services, and you will not experience any trouble there. Now we have learned about all the steps, complexities, and the common mistakes that we usually make. Now the big question: what it takes in terms of money to set up a company on a DIY model? We already have discussed about the timings. Company can be incorporated in as less as 24 hours. However, the entire process of incorporation might take the entire month. You incorporate the company, then you set up the internal documents, you apply for a EIN, you open a bank account, and this entire process might take a month. However, in terms of the initial investment, it might cost you around $500 to $600, all fees and everything included here. There might be like again another $500 to $750 as part of our ongoing fees for annual filings, which you do to federal or state government. But this is the hit on your pocket on an annual basis in terms of self incorporating a company and doing all the filings on your own. So this is so about 1,000 ish dollar is it is gonna charge. I mean, cost you in terms of setting up the entire company, running the annual operations. So to the best of my understanding, this is if you are doing it on yourself, this is the minimum cost, and this is not more to the best of my understanding. However, if you are getting it done through externally or through a professional, that might this might cost you a little bit more, maybe another $1,000, I would say. Also, one more point to add here is, from an initial investment perspective, uh, this investment might increase a little bit if you have like a exigency to create a company within a day or 2 days, because in that cases you end up paying good $300 to $400 to the state of Delaware to expedite your application, right? So this initial investment is for a business as usual case where we are not paying any expedition fees. However, if we have to expedite, this might increase a little bit. Now, depending on everyone's requirement, I'll not stress much here. People have their own mind and brains understanding on how they want to do it. Decide on whether you want to do it yourself or you want a professional help. Both the things are available. I have tried to like put together here some like pros and cons of doing it, which is very simple in terms of if you're doing it, if your intention is to set up a very small company, you're a consultant, you're a self-service business or a business with less number of people, maybe you want to do it yourself. However, you might feel like challenges with respect to which website to go, how do you upload things, which might take a little bit of learning curve, but definitely there is no mandatory requirement to get it done through a professional, and that's where the learning curve is justified. But each person needs to assess their own requirement in case and then set it up. One thing I definitely suggest in even in a DIY model is while you're creating your company on your own, always get your secretarials, the operating agreement, ESOP agreement, your agreement, setting up secretarial structure for the company, president, the treasurer, and things like that. Do get an opinion on what works the best and set it up the right way, because company is incorporated, but the company is run by the law, and the law is defined on the operating agreement and the secretarials that you define. So do it yourself, incorporate a company, but do get your secretarials reviewed, and that might cost you a little, but that's a fair investment to the best of my understanding. Uh, so as I mentioned, we work with a lot of startups. We help a lot of like Indian companies and obviously US based companies to scale further in their journey. We usually have seen that companies, I mean, people who do it themselves. We have many clients who have incorporated their company on their own, and they were able to incorporate it in good $600, and they were able to they were able to scale their business within a year. So having a right mindset, knowing why you are incorporating, selecting the right structure, appointing the right person as a registered agent, and things like that. If you are able to set up the structure right, you tend to get the business as well, because then your focus will be on securing business and expanding your services rather than fixing up these administrative setup pieces. So be mindful of these things, and your journey will also be a successful journey as a founder, as a company, and you'll be able to fly with colors in the US. One good thing I feel like is, if you're entering into the US market, one thing that plays really well is dollar rupee averaging. While it's not good for India, but the way dollar is in INR is depreciating from last past many years, you definitely get an edge of having dollars in your bank, right? And if you're converting them to INR for your other business needs and things like that, that's a fair inflation that you receive in terms of profit. Uh, so I think on a very high level, I have covered in detail as to what thoughts that goes into thinking about setting up the business. I did have covered like what are the DIY steps, what are the basic mistakes that happen, how the tax things needs to be structured. We even have covered what it takes from your pocket to incorporate a company and run a company in the US. Right now, to everyone who is listening, we all know the economic tensions between the countries may happen anytime. And while we want to like set up a business in US, but that should not restrict our global dreams. So that's the reason I thought of incorporating what are the alternatives to incorporating a company in US. There are other options as well. When we want to go global, we can think of a UK, setting up an entity in UK as well. That's simple. Singapore has always been considered as a premier financial hub. So a lot of companies go to Mauritius, go to Singapore and set up their investment companies there because of the tax efficiencies that you get there. One of the another popular free zones which is like there from last many years, which is popping up really well, is UAE. That can also be explored to expand business, if not US. I have like put in a jurisdictional comparison as well, as to if we are not incorporating in US or if we are incorporating in US, how does incorporating in US compares to incorporating in UK, Singapore, UAE, Estonia. We have other options as well. Australia, we have been working with clients there as well. But this is largely, it looks like, again, when we think of how we expand and where we expand in amidst of these economic tensions, we need to like strategize and keep everything in our mind as to what it takes to scale a business in a different country. And we should like keep our original thought in our mind, that as to what's the core reason of why you are incorporating. So with that reason, you can look at the table and decide, basically get some idea of what you want to do, why you want to do, and decide on where you want to do, if not US. Right. So technically, from a very high level perspective, decision, you may take decision and you may think of where your customers are based. Are you planning to raise funds? What type of business you're building? And these three questions will help you get the most favored global expansion country, and you can accordingly decide where you want to go ahead and invest and grow yourself, and obviously grow India. Uh, Next thing is, again, going back to the overall final thoughts. I'm almost like wrapping up the content here. So what we have learned so far is, we decide on where we want to incorporate. If we are deciding to incorporate in US, we decide the right structure. We should minimum have a 3 to 5 years vision as to what structure we want to opt for. We should research our preferred business name. Once this is done, we go ahead to the Delaware State commercial website. We file our form there. We do parallelly, we file for the EIN application to IRS. This is the initial setup. Once you have everything, these things running, you will be setting up your secretarial, setting up your bank account. You will receive your EIN. So you will be ready by the end of the month one to do actual business. And that's when you will prepare yourself from an operational perspective, which means setting up your bank account right, implementing bookkeeping and compliance systems, setting up compliance trackers so that you're not making any mistakes, setting up payment systems and things like that. Overall, my final thought is, earlier, I mean, back in the day when we started, working for the US clients or working for Indian clients, helping them scale to US, it used to be like so much, a lot of unanswered questions were there at that time. But with the growth of time, growth of economy and technology, these things have really opened the pathways for everyone to know how to do it, opened a pathway even to do it yourself, and definitely there are professionals available who can help you as well. So I do can say that it's not a roadblocker anymore. There is no like nuances and mysteries, which should keep you down in terms of not being able to expand to global market. I always cherish and say that if you have a dream, think right and take baby steps, walk step by step and achieve your dream, set up your company. With this, I will, give the dice back to the Sudha ma'am. I'll give the dice back to the audience to come up with any questions. I'll be able to take all the questions, explain any nuances that you are experiencing if you're setting up or you're helping anyone set up. I'll be able to answer everything. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You very well explained everything in step by step, starting with why to incorporate the company, right entity types, and what type of where to incorporate, and step by step, along with the steps to incorporate. Then you explain the complications involved, the mistakes which should be avoided. You articulated everything is articulated very well, sir. We have many questions also from the participants.
Sure,
I will
ma'am.
take one by one the questions, sir. So, the
Sure, ma'am.
first one is the criteria to choose the state in which the company needs to be incorporated. You said we need to choose the state. So, what is the criteria?
So the criteria is that so basically it's a reverse question. Instead of looking at the criteria, how I would look at it is if you are an Indian business or an Indian firm who is looking to expand, we need to answer this question in a reverse way and see which states allow Indian non-residents to set up the business. And the most popular state that allows is a Delaware. However, there are other states as well: Wyoming, New York, California, Nevada, but they all have their own set of requirement. It doesn't. There is no difference in setting up in US versus a New York or any other state from the perspective of nature of business that you have, right? So there is no benefit in doing business if you do a services business or you're doing a product business. So there is no such difference. Operationally, all companies in any state functions the same way. The question is which state allows you to set up. That's the question. I mean, that we should figure out first. And Delaware is a gold standard. Delaware happens seamlessly. The state do not ask most questions, and we are able to set up a company in like few hours or 24 hours itself.
The next question is uh, to understand it correctly, an LLC, you are not taxed in USA, but income passes through to India and you pay income tax in India. But to exit your investment in an LLC, that is more difficult. Is it correct?
Yes. So first part of the question is that LLC has a pass-through taxation. So yes. So you will not be taxed. You will not be paying even a single dollar to the US government on all your income. Rather, all the income will be passed through to the individual income in India, and it will be taxed as per the Indian law and Indian slab or whatever tax bracket is applicable on you. Now, coming to from the perspective of exit, yes, LLC is not a popular model, as I covered in my webinar. I mean, in my slides as well. Any investor will not be able to seek exit as a LLC, and rather, in my practical experience, what I have seen is no investor will invest in a LLC because of its structure. They will first convert the company to a C corporation, and then they will invest into it. And the sole reason for that is in LLC, you are the owner of the entire share of the business, right? However, as an investor, he will be getting the equity in the company. There is no concept of getting equity in a LLC, right? You get an equity in a C corporation only, and what is favored by investor, and they are able to seek exit by selling their shares when the company has made 2x 10x of their revenue, and whenever investor is seeking exit. So the answer is yes. LLC has a pass-through taxation, and it is impossible or difficult for a investor to seek exit from LLC. And hence, the popular structure is a C corporation where investor comes in as an equity partner, and they are able to easily then sell off their share within the US only.
The next question is, can you show us practically how the company setup happens on the portal? So, like the way we do it in MCA, do we have something like that?
Yes. So, ma'am, is it possible that we can share with the team? I can add a slide. Basically, we can just simply have to go to a Delaware state website. And there is a utility that we have to just fill in. And we have to create a user ID account the way we do it on MCA as well. And then it's a simple form that we download and fill it onto there. So what I will do is when I send you my slides, I'll incorporate a setup slide as well, which will showcase the steps from the Delaware State website, and that can be shared with participants maybe.
Okay. The next question is, how to find the tax identification number of that country? It's
how to find is not a right question. I think how to apply is EIN. Yeah. We have to go to IRS, Internal Revenue Services, type, IRS EIN application. It will again give us a utility, which is a half-page form. And as a US resident, it's a 5 minutes thing. You will get a EIN directly on the webpage itself. However, as I mentioned, for non-resident Indians, we have to download Form SS4. We just go to our browser and type Form SS4 IRS. We download it. We fill it manually by pen. We sign it. We attach our KYC with it, and we have to send it to the state of Connecticut. That's where the IRS headquarters are. That's how you apply the EIN, ma'am.
Okay, sir. The next question is, do we need to file internal governance documents with any authority, like federal or state government?
So the answer to this question is yes and no. As a small company, you just incorporate with Delaware. You don't file anything in first year. But when you add more partners or you change your company constitution from LLC to C corporation, at that time existing operating agreement and the secretarial structure gets shared with the department. So there is no filing as such at the time of incorporation.
Okay. The next question is, what is the substitute of social security number for NRS? Whether EIN number is required for the company or LLC or for the non-resident Indians or promoters are also required to obtain. You explained it in the slide, sir.
Yes. So everyone needs to apply for a EIN, whether we are incorporating a LLC or a C corporation or S corporation or anything for that matter. any legal business that you're setting up in US will require a EIN. But to obtain a EIN as a non-resident Indian, Form SS4, which is the EIN form, has a field which requires you to select a non-resident, and then they take your Indian PAN as a in place of social security number, and they allow your application for EIN. So, as a non resident Indian on the form SS4, you select non resident and you provide your Indian tax ID. And they use the tax ID, IRS use your Indian tax ID to give you a EIN, Employer Business Identification Number, which is mandatorily needed for a LLC or a company. Without EIN, you cannot do a business in the US.
Okay. The next one, sir. Any of fintech supports Zelly payment? I'm not sure that's pronounced correctly.
Zelle payment is not a fintech bank or a fintech platform which can serve banking. However, Zelle is popular for making local payments in US without a full-fledged banking. From a business perspective, it's debatable if Zelle is acceptable or not. People do use it because of the simplicity. It's more like a UPI in India. We are popularly using UPI to make payments, but from a business perspective, the tracking of UPI, the tracking of the right vendor is still debatable. The same way, Zelle payments are actively used in the US business structure, or basically, in the US space. However, this is not a right fintech platform from a business perspective. You should go for more structured banks, commercial banks, or you should go for a popular fintech banks, which are Mercury, Row, and Wise, etc. One distinction is your full-fledged banking is obviously has more trust. Fintech banks basically go for the banks which are FDDI approved, which provides you a $500,000 insurance security, and they have a banking license. Zelle do not have a banking license; they are just payment facilitators.
The next question is, I am an NRI based in Middle East and planning to open stock trading account with any discounted broker with an intention to trade in US stock market. Please clarify if possible. The first one is, can USD account be opened in US remotely without visiting there? The second question is insurance coverage of 5 million applicable to traditional banks in US? Third question is, can you suggest which are most reliable stockbroker? It's totally not relating to this one, sir.
Okay. So this is a little unrelated, but I can still help you answer it. So the first part is, as an NRI Middle East based person, to trade in the US stocks. First question is, you can open a USD account as a non-resident. However, intent needs to be still shown as a business, and we need to verify if stock broking, or if trading in stock do qualify as a business activity for banks to open a bank account. Because it's a speculative nature of activity everywhere, even in India, stock trading is considered as a speculative. It is likely that your application will get rejected without a proper legal structure. So the answer to question one is, you can open, but there are nuances if it will get approved or not. Third question was that who is a reliable stockbroker? I won't name any broker, to be honest, but the brokers approved by commercial banks are all good, all secure. And we also use a similar broker to do the trading activities from our company. Ma'am, would you mind repeating the second question? I missed that.
Is insurance coverage of 5 million applicable to traditional banks in US?
Traditional banks will provide you more coverage. These are the fintech banks which provide you a minimum $500,000 to $5 million of coverage. depending on the scale and the kind of banking license they have. Commercial banks usually have a better coverage. I'm not sure of the exact limit, but I can confidently say it is minimum 5x of 5 million, 25 million or something, but needs to be checked.
Okay. The next one, sir. In recent times, are you aware of low-size consulting firms being opened in US by Indians residing in India for risk consulting, that is internal audits, SOX reviews?
Lot of firms every day, probably thousands of firms are opening. So yes, there are low cost consulting firms available who are doing SOX compliances, internal cost reviews, internal audits, and things like that. There are firms available.
The next one, sir. Tirupur-based proprietor garment export business planned to start a company in Delaware. He already doing export of hosiery garments up to 25 crores to US. Terms
Mhm.
DDP, that is delivery duty paid. New US company for procuring new orders in US and place orders to all over world. Also, new US company take care of Indian export as well to minimize cost. Any US benefit for owners and CA having company in USA. Any appointment of CPA in US is mandatory.
Uh, this is a detailed question, might require like me to look into more details, but to on a very high level, there is no mandatory requirement to have a CPA looking after it, but it's always advisable to engage the right professional at the right time so that you're not, basically, they're able to suggest you the right structure and right operational efficiencies, which definitely will help you grow your business better. So there is no mandatory requirement to have CPA, but it's always better to have the right professional on your side.
One more question, sir. It's not relevant to the subject again. Does the LLC grant right to work in US?
And can you please repeat the question once again?
The question is, does the LLC grant right to
Mhm.
work in USA?
No, not at
It's
all.
USA.
And considering what all is happening, with the Trump's government and all of that, it's all unpredictable. You don't get a right to go to US or anything like that with having a LLC. You need to go through the regular visa process, which is E1 or O1. As a business, you are able to apply through these two visas. I won't go into the granularity of visas, but the answer is no.
The next question, sir. Please explain more about state tax. What if we want to carry operations beyond Delaware?
Huh, so you can do business in any state. Okay, uh, so setting up a company requires you to tag your business to one state which is favorable to you as a non-resident, and for that reason, we have adopted or opted for Delaware as the business as a state where our entity is listed. However, if I just give you a right comparison, when we incorporate a company in US, for example, we incorporate in Delhi. This doesn't stop us to do business in any other state in India, right? We have a free trade mechanism, free trade operations across India. The same way, you just register your business in Delaware. However, you can do business in any states in US. From the state tax nuance perspective, where things gets complicated is state tax are charged not on the state where your business is registered. Rather, state taxes are charged on the basis of where your customers are based. So, if I am a Delaware registered entity, my total revenue is $10 million, and I have 6 million revenue coming from the state of New York, which means my customers from New York have paid me 6 million, and 4 million business I have received from state of California. So I will be paying state income tax in three states. One is Delaware, because that Delaware I have a physical nexus. I have an office, I have an entity registration. I will be paying state tax in the state of New York and California as well, and that's because of the revenue nexus. So, in which state you will be paying taxes will be defined by two things. Whether do you have a physical nexus with the state? If the answer is yes, then you will pay tax in that state. And if you have a revenue nexus in a state, then also you pay tax. When it comes to physical nexus is defined by two things. One is where your entity is registered or you have your office. So, for example, you register your entity in Delaware, but you have your office in the state of Washington. So, you have physical nexus in two states. One is Delaware and one is Washington. So, you will be paying taxes in both states. Now, plus, considering the world after COVID, if you hire people on a remote basis and your employee, so you have your entity based in Delaware, you have your physical office in Washington. However, you hired an employee, let's say in state of Wyoming. Okay, so now you have three physical nexus. You will be filing in three states: Wyoming, Washington, and Delaware. Plus, if you have now revenue nexus as well, so when you file your tax return, you will be filing a federal tax return plus three state returns because of the physical nexus and two state return because of the revenue nexus. Now, again, going into the loop of state taxation, whether you will be actually filing or not will depend on some more criterias which are related to revenue threshold, number of employees, and various other thresholds. So those needs to be looked into based on the specific state requirement. Each state has its own requirements. Some state will charge you tax if you have revenue more than, let's say, 50,000. Some states, which are more popular business states, allow you to have a threshold up to 1 million as well. They don't charge you any tax up till 1 million of revenue. So nuances of state tax are very state specific and needs to be looked into based on the each individual case. There is no straightforward maths of what state tax will be applicable on you unless and until we go into the depth of where your business is based and what nexus you have across different states.
Okay, sir. The next question. Can I open consulting firm in US? If yes, do I need to employ local staff or can work be done solely remotely?
Yes, the answer to both questions is yes. So you can open a consulting firm. Being in India as a Indian resident, you can open in US and you can operate with local Indian remote staff as well. There is no foundation for you to hire employees there as well. But what I have seen in my experience working with many other consulting firm which we work with or we work for, if you're opening a consulting, it's always better if you have somebody representing you that will bring you more business than building a business sitting here. So having an employee will help you scale, but there is no mandatory requirement.
We have many more questions. Can you
No
please
worries.
share your views on S Corp entity registration and pros and cons of S Corp entity?
Again, there is no straight yes or no answer to this. The reason is why you are creating a S corporation. I mean, why someone wants to create a S corporation needs to be looked into. So we need to first assess the object of the business and then go for the right entity structure. However, S structure is generally a restrictive structure. It allows for only 100 members or shareholders. However, we have unlimited members or shareholders in case of a C corporation. Plus, in S corporation, you cannot increase the number of shares beyond a certain point. C corporation, unlimited members, unlimited number of shares. So this way, S corporation is restrictive. However, I mean, need basically we need to look into what's the object of you creating a S corp. In my professional experience, skip S corp, go with C corp only. Otherwise, I mean, it has its own set of problems. It's a non-popular, not very popular structure.
The next
Yeah.
one, if we want to make private limited company in India, subsidiary will made in USA, private limited company अगर इंडिया में फाइनेंस लेगी तो यूएस फंड्स ट्रांसफर कैसे करेंगे? एनी आरबीआई गाइडलाइंस?
This is a very critical question again because sending dollars from India to US is obviously governed by the RBI and FEMA restrictions and regulations. However, if you again you need to set up the structure right. If you have a holding company or the primary company as an Indian company, and then you're scaling US business as a subsidiary of India business, then you can send capital through your Indian bank to US company as contribution of capital for the initial investments. But rules are literally a little bit tricky. You have to work with your CA, get Form 15 CACB right, comply with the FEMA requirements of acquiring shares in a private, in a business in US, and it should be done. There are no such restrictions that you can't send money from India to US. It's just little bit of more paperwork, bureaucracy, and things like that. We
Thank you,
have
sir.
been doing it for many clients, so it's fine. This is possible.
Okay. The next one, for a single owner, is LLC the only option or can one also go for a C corp? Like the
We can go
OPC.
for a C corp as well with a one person in India or a one person as a sole shareholder. There is no such restriction.
Okay. Whether in a small business where there is no investor, the promoters or NRIs can repatriate their accumulated profits, whether there is any withholding tax.
There is no withholding tax in repatriation of funds from a LLC to Indian owners. There might be, some withholding criteria with respect to when we move funds as a C corporation to its owner. Uh, it is always advisable to either set up a retainership agreement between the owner or a C corporation to legitimately receive funds without withholding. Again, these are the active ways with which we avoid or we are able to plan the withholdings better. But with LLCs, no taxation because taxation is at the source in the hands of owner itself. With C corporation, we can send retainerships, we can send consulting fees without withholding. But if you employ yourself as an employee with the company, then definitely we have to go through the path of withholding. We can't avoid it. So we need to structure the relationship between the Indian owner or NRI owner with the US company in a thoughtful way, I would say.
The next one, sir. Can we change the registered agent in future if we do get an issue from their authorities?
Anytime we can do that. So when we appoint our original, let's say we appointed one XYZ registered agent, it did not work out well. What we have to do is we simply go to a better registered agent and tell them that, hey, this is not a new register. It's not a new company application. It's a transfer of registered office from existing office to another, and they should be able to do the paperwork for you. It's a simple form again. You have to declare to the new registered agent who was your existing registered agent, and between registered agent old to the new, they will be able to transfer everything.
So it involves
free,
the paperwork again.
yes. So freely transferable, no restriction. You can change it anytime.
Is there any sector specific permission need to create a company in USA?
Ma'am, I missed the first word. What's the question?
Is there any sector specific permission? Sector specific.
Sector specific permission. Good question. So there are business licenses which we might need to secure depending on the nature of business. And nature of business defines whether we have to take any license or not. So in general, for most firms looking, or most anyone looking to set up a consulting business or a service specific business, they might not require any sort of license or sector specific thing. But for other businesses who are who are dealing in products, who are dealing in tech deliveries, tech products, software related things, such developments, uh, we need to see what licenses they need. So there is a requirement of license for some businesses, and that depends on the sector and the nature of product, basically.
So mostly the software people keep asking about this one, sir. So they need a license sort of thing.
Uh, Ma'am, yes, but again, different states will will have different requirement to have license. Some state will skip the requirement of license. Some state will have the requirement of license. So, owner needs to see, or the business needs to see, where are their customers based, and we need to then, depending on where the customer is based, we need to secure those licenses. Yes.
Okay, sir. We understand that LLCs are not taxed at the entity level, but is return filing still mandatory for them?
Yes, absolutely. How will you receive that FTAs, any federal tax credits and things like that? And when you are, I mean, because it's a pass through mechanism, so your US tax return becomes the base for the numbers that will show on your Indian tax return. So, yes, filing is mandatory.
Is loss of US LLC, where Indian company is sole member, adjustable in Indian income of company through pass-through taxation? It's relating to taxation, sir.
When it comes to pass through loss, things gets a little tricky. Again, in so as by the word of law, it gets transferred to the company. But because Indian government in this scenario is not actually receiving the money, so things needs to be planned a little better. Uh, However, by the word of law, yes, loss also gets transferred.
The next one, if there is an LLC in USA with Indian partners, should the partners not be taxed in US only, even with pass-through status, and file their return there also, because this is US source income only taxed at partner level?
Ma'am, can you just repeat the question once again? What I want to understand here is basically, is the
If
question saying that the owners or the partners of the LLC are based in US?
with Indian partners, sir, if there is an LLC in
Huh.
USA with Indian partners, should the
In
partners
US
not be
only.
taxed in US only?
Huh. So in that scenario, though, the partners who are in US will be taxed in US only. So if a Indian LLC, if a US LLC is formed with Indian partners living in India, it will have a pass through taxation. The income of the LLC will get transferred to the Indian owners and will taxed at the Indian, as per the Indian income tax. However, if, for example, one partner is living in the US only, in that particular case, the 50% income, or whatever is the proportion of income which is of the partner living in US, will get taxed in the US only. So, so US LLC with partners, Indian partners living in US will be taxed in US only as part of the pass-through taxation.
I think the question mainly is because in for partnership firms, once it is taxed in the firm, it is not taxable in the hands of the partners. So in that context, he is trying to question this one, sir.
Sorry, ma'am, can you go
No,
ahead?
the question is more like even with pass-through status and file the return there also, because this is US source income only, taxed at partner level. That's what the question is.
I mean, so again, I'm saying the same thing. If a US LLC has a Indian partners living in US, Indian origin partner living in US and filing the tax return in US only. So yes, LLC income will be taxable in the hands of Indian partners in US as per the US tax laws. That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Again, regarding the state, sir, which state is better for consulting company? Example, RCM and other CA type services from a taxation perspective?
Delaware.
Delaware. The single member foreign LLC or multi-member, which one is preferable for CAs in India? What are pros and cons?
So depends on how you want to scale and when you want to scale. There is no single answer to this again. Why I would say that is if I am a small business owner running a sole proprietorship firm in India, right? So first, when I start my global business, I'm gonna be the single member. And as business scale, for example, if I appoint another partner or another CPA in US who will help me scale the business, so he might want to like participate as a partner in my LLC, right? So while this is structured as a single member LLC, for the further future scale, I might need to add a partner in US and I share my profit with him or her, whatever. But if I already have a 10-membered firm running here, then ideally it's a partners who needs to decide on how they want to distribute the LLC income in India. And typically it's a tax optimization question and alignment related question between the partners. I cannot say whether a single member LLC will be beneficial or a multi-level LLC will be beneficial because from a operations perspective, both are set up the same way and operated the same way. But if there is a single member, 100% income will get taxed in his hands. If there are 10 members in LLC, then 1/10 income of the LLC will get taxed in the hands of each partner. So it's more of a question of tax optimization, which needs to be seen at an individual level. We have clients who are in the similar encounter related to this question, have multiple member partnership already running in India. They are opening up their LLC there. So it's a question of how efficiently they are planning their taxes in the hands of Indian partner, and accordingly the decision will they will arrive at the decision. There is no single yes or no to this answer, ma'am. This question, ma'am.
If customers are in different state than LLC or C Corp, what are disadvantages of it?
No such disadvantages. As the LLC, you will still be paying the state taxes wherever your customers are if you meet the threshold. And same is for the C Corp as well. So technically, the customer can be based anywhere. I'm myself a Delaware registered company, and we are serving good 200 startups who are based across different states. So as part of setup, it doesn't really matter what is the location of my customer. It's not impacting me in any way. There is no increased compliance burden of having customers in different states and things like that. So having a LLC or having a C Corp depends. You need to see what's the intent of setting up the company. If there is no intent of having investors or VCs coming in, if you scale, you want to distribute ESOP or give ESOP to your employees and things like that, then C Corp is better. If you don't have any such intent, then go with the LLC. It's a less compliance structure compared to C Corp. So you will have better compliance, less stringent compliance structure in LLC compared to C Corp. So it doesn't matter where customers are based. The decision is with the owner to see what kind of scale they want.
So, four more questions,
No
sir.
worries, ma'am.
If there is there any benefit in terms of compliances or cost in setting up a single owner LLC versus multiple owner LLC? If we are providing accounting services, is there a benefit in setting up in Wyoming, also in Nevada? Pronunciation may be wrong, sir.
No worries, ma'am. So if I'm understanding, the question is that is there any cost difference in setting up single member versus multiple member? And is there the cost difference is there Delaware versus Nevada versus
Nevada.
Wyoming, right?
Yeah.
So yes, there is no much change in the cost. It's just that different states will have a different registration fees and fee for setup of company. Most economical and most favorable is again Delaware only, but certain businesses might have certain requirements because of the nature of services they are providing or the product they are dealing with, which Delaware might not be suitable to them. And in those cases, we opt for Wyoming and Nevada. But to be honest, 100 out of 99 companies that we form are Delaware based only. So there are very critically less chances that Delaware won't suit you. Cost difference with when you step outside of Delaware in to set up a company, your cost will go 2 to 3 times for sure. And you might not be able to follow a DIY model as well because other states' requirements are more stringent and may require local representation in front of their state MCAs, basically, Ministry of Company Affairs. So when you think about state outside of Delaware, then yes, costs will increase. You might require local licensing, local representations to be able to incorporate, but Delaware is the most favorable. It doesn't matter or it doesn't increase cost if you are a single member company or a multiple member company. Your LLC might have 10 members, the cost will still be same. You will be paying the same fees to Delaware. It's not that if
Okay.
you have 10 members, you will be paying more fees to the state of Delaware as a filing fees or something like that. Fees is same whether you're a single member or multi-member.
Uh, the next question, sir. For an Indian-based business that desires to ship its products to USA for storage with a third-party logistics player, upon receipt of orders, the third-party logistics player ships the goods to customers in USA. In such a situation, is registering a US entity required? And if yes, what kind of entity?
Again,
Logistics.
the transaction needs to be looked into in more detail, but what I can get is if you're transferring goods from here to in your name to US, if it is a direct sale to a customer, you don't need to set up a company. If you are exporting from your company and you are going to sell it to other customers there, then definitely you need to have a right legal structure set up. And C corporation works best.
Okay, sir. It's regarding taxation, sir. For
Mhm.
someone receiving pension payment in India,
Mhm.
in India tax is deducted in US per Article 22 of DTA. Can we claim refund in USA and pay taxes in India on that global income? It's relating to
Uh,
tax.
Ma'am, I'll have to look into the rules and see, but so I won't be able to answer this one right away because there
It's
is a
yeah,
specific reference to a rule, and I mean, I will have to then look it and then answer.
it's not relevant to this topic, sir. Actually, it's
Yes.
taxation related.
Yeah.
Again, it's relating EIN. It's for last question, sir. Whether obtaining EIN is mandatory for NRIs to incorporate LLC. You already answered.
Absolutely. For everyone, whether you are a NRI, non-NRI, you're a resident in US, non-resident in US, you're a resident in India, non-resident in India, everyone needs a EIN to do business in US. Any more questions,
That's
ma'am?
all, sir. The questions, I think that was the last question.
Yeah.
So, I'm just checking whether any more questions are there.
Sure, ma'am.
Just a minute, sir.
Yeah, Sudha, good afternoon.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, sir.
How are you?
Good, sir.
So, all done?
We,
Questions?
yeah, questions are done, sir.
Okay,
Just now
okay.
finished all the questions. There were a lot of questions, and Ashish sir has patiently explained everything in detail.
Oh, wonderful. Very nice. So I think we'll go for the concluding.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir.
So thank you very much, all of you, for joining today for this insightful session. I'm told on the Global Udan webinar series. Once again, I think the discussion on the DIY incorporation of company in USA. I think an excellent selection of topic, I must say, and I would say not just the topic, but the esteemed speaker, Sri Ashish Singhal, for his valuable insight and all the discussions, the response on the questions which were raised. And thank you so much, Sudha, also for moderating ably and ensuring this session being one of the most practical sessions in the Global Udan webinar series. So, all of you, I'm sure all the participants would be really and extremely benefited with this enriching and practical session. I'm confident that the knowledge shared today will enable our members and professionals to guide clients more effectively, explore cross border opportunities, and strengthen their global advisory capabilities. So I'm sure. And once again, thank you so much, all the participants. Because of you, it encourages us to have such webinar series regularly. We are doing every week, and just to share that this initiative of the directorate has made a has made us, in fact, to plan for a global week. So we are celebrating a global week starting from 29th till 7th of October, where we'll bringing all the jurisdictions from all over the world, wherever we have our chapter offices, we have our represented offices. We talk about Asia, Africa, we talk about USA, Europe, Canada, Middle East, Australia. So every day we'll have a session on global opportunities. What are the benefits, the outsourcing services work, areas which are there available, new areas of opportunity which members can look at. And that is one reason which made us start the certificate course of outsourcing services for US market, then encouraged us to start for UK market, which we started in this month ending in October. And the 10th batch for the US certificate outsourcing services will start again in the month of October. So these are all planned. And just to share, the global capability centers, now we call, has gained tremendous, importance and opportunities for members, particularly in India. A lot of exports of services are being done, and with that also, we thought that why not have a global capability center summit. So we started with GCC summit in June. We had one in August. We had at Ahmedabad. Now we plan to do one at Hyderabad. Maybe then next in line with Pune. So Hyderabad, those who wish to join, the registration is already open. Please look at the website of ICI at the Global Udan, the GCC Summit, where you can register yourself for the Hyderabad GCC Summit. Also, in terms of the iTech training programs, we were fortunate to get two programs this year with the Ministry of External Affairs, where we had 30 participants from 18 countries who were there from various departments of government from all over the world. We had 18 countries. That program is going on. That'll end on 26th of this month. So initiatives, we have a lot of initiative which we have planned from this directorate. Global Udan is one important initiative, and I must thank Ashish ji for an insightful and very important practical discussions, and Sudha for moderating. And I would certainly request members to keep visiting our website, which is a portal which we have created this year and launched. It's called apo.icai.org. This is the portal where we are registering the Indian firms, the Indian entity, and also asking the foreign entity to register at this portal and giving them a platform for opportunities. So Indian entities, foreign entities, they would match themselves based on certain criteria, and foreign entity will pick up those Indian entities for opportunities which they can outsource to the Indian entities. So certainly request members to have a look at this portal regularly, register themselves if they've not done till date, and create opportunities for themselves, because this portal will be an authentic portal for registering, and once approved as an Indian entity for themselves, they'll be able to showcase themselves outside India that you've already been vetted as an entity which based on certain criteria, and then you are ready to accept outsourcing work or any opportunities which comes from the globe. So once again, thank you all of you for joining, all the participants. Please let us know for any important topic which we can have it as a global Udan. Any jurisdiction you would like to cover, we'll be happy to do that. And join us on this global week starting 29th of September till 7th of October. Visit the website, register yourself, whichever topic area you're looking at, and we'll be happy, to bring in the best of speakers for you. Thank you, all of you. Over to you. Over to you, Sudha.
Thank you very much, sir. I sincerely thank the Institute and the Global Udan team for taking up such topics and encouraging everyone to participate and giving this knowledge to everyone, sir. It's helping us to go beyond our limited practice region and helping to grow global also. I sincerely thank the speaker of the day, Ashish ji, for the expertise he brought today in the session and patiently explaining everything, sir. So I thank you very much, sir, and for taking the queries and clarifying all our doubts. And gratitude to the institute. And on behalf of the entire leadership team, I extend my gratitude to all the participants who have participated. And your presence and an active participant in the webinar is the one which is encouraging us also. Thank you very much. And I thank all the paper participants again. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank
And I
you. Thank you
conclude
very
the
much.
session. Thank you,
Yeah,
sir.
thank you. Thank you, everyone, for
Thank you,
joining.
everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Ashish. Thank you. Thank you, Sudha.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bye.
sir.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Thanks.